Imagine investing your life savings into a promising opportunity, only to watch it vanish. You're not alone. For over a century, Ponzi schemes have fooled millions, stealing billions with fake promises and smooth-talking con artists. This is as a result of the allure of quick riches, which has led many down treacherous paths. It is a scheme met with greed and deception. It is a fraud that promises prosperity but delivers ruin. Today, we delve into the origins of these schemes and uncover the top 10 most evil Ponzi schemes of all time, their history, amount stolen, mode of operation, and how to spot them. Chapter 1: The Ponzi Scheme. The scheme is a fraudulent investment operation where returns to earlier investors are paid from the capital of new investors, rather than from profit earned. Named after Charles Ponzi, who orchestrated such a scheme in the 1920s, these operations rely on a continuous influx of new funds to sustain payouts. Eventually, when recruiting new investors becomes unsustainable, the scheme collapses, leaving many in financial ruin. Infamous Ponzi schemes of all time. 1. Charles Ponzi, USA. 1920. Charles Ponzi was an Italian-born swindler who became infamous in 1920s America for orchestrating a fraudulent investment scheme that promised high returns by using money from new investors to pay earlier ones, now known as the classic Ponzi scheme. He promised investors 50% returns in 45 days by exploiting international postal reply coupons. His scheme attracted thousands, amassing over $15 million before collapsing. Amount stolen: approximately $15 million in 1920, equivalent to over $200 million today. Mode of operation: Ponzi used funds from new investors to pay earlier ones, without any legitimate investment activity. 2. Bernard Madoff, USA, 2008. Bernie Madoff, born in 1938 in the United States, was a former financier, a stockbroker and investment advisor who ran the largest Ponzi scheme in history, defrauding investors of around $65 billion over decades before he was arrested in 2008 and sentenced to 150 years in prison. Amount stolen: estimated losses of $65 billion. Mode of operation: Madoff promised consistent, high returns through a split-strike conversion strategy, but in reality, he used new investors' funds to pay returns. 3. Alan Stanford, USA/Caribbean, 2009. Alan Stanford, born in 1950 in the United States, was a financier and sponsor of professional sports who was convicted in 2012 for running a $7 billion Ponzi scheme through his Antigua-based Stanford International Bank. That he operated a massive Ponzi scheme through his offshore bank, promising high returns on certificates of deposit. Amount stolen: approximately $7 billion. Mode of operation: Stanford misrepresented the safety and returns of his bank CDs, using new investments to pay existing clients. 4. Tom Petters, USA, 2009. Tom Petters, the founder of Petters Group Worldwide, orchestrated a massive Ponzi scheme between the mid-1990s and 2008 by convincing investors that their funds would be used to buy and resell consumer electronics to big-box retailers, but in reality, no such transactions existed. Amount stolen: over the course of nearly 13 years, Petters defrauded investors out of approximately $3.65 billion, making it one of the largest financial frauds in U.S. history at the time. Mode of operation: Petters operated the scheme by fabricating fake purchase orders and invoices to simulate legitimate business activity, while using funds from new investors to pay off earlier ones and maintain the illusion of profitability. 5. Scott Rothstein, USA, 2009. In 2009, Scott Rothstein, a prominent Florida attorney and managing partner of Rothstein Rosenfeld Adler, orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes in U.S. history by exploiting his law firm's reputation to sell fictitious legal settlement agreements to investors, claiming they involved confidential sexual harassment and whistleblower cases that promised lucrative payouts. Amount stolen: Rothstein defrauded investors of approximately $1.2 billion over several years by fabricating documents, forging court orders, and manipulating bank records to maintain the illusion of legitimacy. Mode of operation: operating under the guise of a successful legal enterprise, Rothstein attracted wealthy investors by guaranteeing high returns from non-existent legal settlements and sustained the scheme by using incoming funds from new investors to pay earlier ones, a classic hallmark of a Ponzi operation. 6. Lou Pearlman, USA, 2006. 2006, Lou Pearlman, the music mogul behind popular boy bands like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, was exposed for orchestrating a massive Ponzi scheme spanning over 2 decades, during which he used his celebrity status and fabricated business ventures to deceive investors, banks, and aspiring entrepreneurs. Amount stolen: Pearlman defrauded over 1,800 investors and multiple financial institutions out of approximately $300 million by promoting bogus investment opportunities in non-existent companies, including a fictitious airline and leasing businesses. Mode of operation: he sustained the scheme by creating fake financial statements, forging federal insurance documents, and inventing phantom companies to solicit investments and bank loans, continuously using funds from new victims to pay off earlier ones and maintain the illusion of profitability. 7. Reed Slatkin, USA, 2001. Reed Slatkin, born in the United States, was a co-founder of the early internet service provider Earthlink and a self-styled investment advisor who gained trust particularly among members of the Church of Scientology. From the 1980s until 2001, he built a reputation for offering exclusive financial advice to a close circle of clients, many of whom were fellow Scientologists. His operation came crashing down when federal investigators uncovered that Slatkin had been running a massive Ponzi scheme for nearly 15 years, ultimately leading to his sentencing to 14 years in prison in 2003. Amount stolen: over the course of his fraudulent activities, Reed Slatkin swindled approximately $593 million from about 800 investors. These investors ranged from Hollywood celebrities to ordinary professionals who believed they were participating in a lucrative, insider investment opportunity. Slatkin used the illusion of successful returns to attract even more investors, compounding the scale of financial damage as more victims poured their savings into his false promises. Mode of operation: Slatkin's Ponzi scheme operated by offering supposedly secretive, highly profitable investment opportunities, which he claimed were based on privileged strategies unavailable to the general public. Rather than making real investments, he simply used money from newer investors to pay returns to earlier ones, creating the illusion of consistent success. His scheme remained hidden for years thanks to an air of exclusivity, personal trust, and a lack of formal oversight, until mounting withdrawal requests and regulatory scrutiny eventually exposed the fraud. 8. Gerald Payne, USA, 2001. Gerald Payne, based in the United States, was the leader of Greater Ministries International, a religious organization that operated a massive financial fraud disguised as a faith-based investment program. Throughout the 1990s, Payne targeted devout churchgoers, promising them financial miracles rooted in divine blessings and biblical promises. His fraudulent scheme was uncovered in 2001, revealing that he had used religious trust to manipulate thousands of victims, leading to his conviction and a 27-year prison sentence for conspiracy, mail fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. Amount stolen: through the Greater Ministries International program, Gerald Payne managed to steal approximately $448 million from more than 18,000 investors across the United States. Victims were often encouraged by fellow church members to invest their life savings and retirement funds, believing that their contributions were part of a godly mission. The staggering amount of money collected made Payne's operation one of the largest faith-based Ponzi schemes in American history at the time. Mode of operation: Payne operated his scheme by assuring investors that their money would be doubled through divine blessings and special financial anointing, blending religious rhetoric with promises of extraordinary returns. Rather than making legitimate investments, he used funds from new investors to pay off earlier ones, maintaining the illusion of success and divine favor. His exploitation of religious faith and community networks allowed the scam to flourish unchecked for years before federal authorities intervened. 9. Barry Minkoff, USA, 1987. Barry Minkoff, an American entrepreneur born in 1966, founded ZZZZ Best, a carpet cleaning company, as a teenager and quickly built it into what appeared to be a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Behind the scenes, however, Minkoff was using the company as a front for an elaborate Ponzi scheme, fabricating revenues and creating fake insurance restoration contracts to deceive investors and banks. His fraudulent activities were exposed in 1987, leading to his downfall and a 25-year prison sentence after being convicted of multiple counts of fraud. Amount stolen. Through the ZZZZ Best fraud, Barry Minkoff stole approximately $100 million from investors, banks, and the public by inflating the company's financial statements and luring more funds based on false promises of rapid business growth. His scheme, although smaller compared to later financial scandals, had a significant impact because it involved a publicly traded company, shaking investor confidence and exposing weaknesses in corporate oversight and auditing practices at the time. Mode of operation. Minkoff sustained his Ponzi scheme by fabricating documents, forging contracts, and falsifying financial reports to convince investors and lenders that ZZZZ Best was a thriving and legitimate business. Instead of generating real profits, he used money from new investments to pay off earlier investors and fund an extravagant lifestyle, while continually covering up financial shortfalls with layers of lies and fake transactions. His manipulation of both private investors and the public markets made his case a textbook example of corporate fraud. 10. Sarah Howe, USA, 1880s. Sarah Howe, operating in the United States during the 1880s, was a fraudster who established the Ladies Deposit Company, claiming it was a women-only bank designed to help female clients achieve financial independence. She specifically targeted single women and widows, groups often marginalized in the financial system of the time, gaining their trust through promises of safe and profitable investments. Her scheme eventually unraveled, exposing her as a con artist and leading to her imprisonment for fraud, making her one of the earliest known operators of a Ponzi-like scheme in American history. Amount stolen. Although the exact amount Sarah Howe stole remains unknown, contemporary reports suggest that the sum was significant for the era, involving hundreds of thousands of dollars, an enormous amount by 19th-century standards. Her victims, often vulnerable women with few financial options, lost their life savings and inheritances, amplifying the social and personal devastation caused by her deceit. The scale of the losses captured public attention and highlighted the need for more regulation in banking practices, particularly protections for women investors. Mode of operation. Howe's fraudulent operation revolved around promising her clients an extraordinary 8% monthly interest rate on their deposits, a return far higher than anything offered by legitimate banks at the time. Instead of investing the money, she simply used funds from new depositors to pay interest to earlier ones, creating the illusion of a thriving, profitable institution. This method allowed her to continue attracting new clients until the scheme collapsed under its own weight when payouts became unsustainable and suspicious clients triggered investigations. Chapter 3. Mode of operation at a glance. A Ponzi scheme operates by using the money from new investors to pay returns to earlier investors, rather than generating actual profit from legitimate business activities or investments. Here's how it works in a typical 4-step flow. 1. The promise of high returns. 2. Early payouts to gain trust. 3. Recruitment of new investors. 4. Collapse is inevitable. Chapter 4. How to spot a Ponzi scheme. Absolutely, spotting a Ponzi scheme early can save you and others from devastating financial losses. Here are the top signs to look out for clarity. 1. Unrealistic returns. Red flag, promises of guaranteed or consistently high returns of 10 to 30% monthly regardless of market conditions. Reality check, all investments carry risk. High and consistent returns are extremely rare. What to do? Compare their promised returns with average market returns of top companies. 2. No clear business model. Red flag: vague or complicated explanations of how the investment generates profit. Reality check: legitimate investments can clearly explain their revenue streams, risks, and markets. What to do? Ask detailed questions. If answers are evasive or too complex to understand, walk away. 3. Pressure to recruit others. Red flag: you're encouraged, or rewarded, to bring in friends and family to invest. Reality check: while referral programs exist, a true investment focuses on profits from products or services, not just new people. What to do? Be wary if the model is centered more on recruitment than an actual product or service. 4. Unregistered investments or sellers. Red flag: the scheme or the people running it are not registered with financial regulatory bodies like the SEC or your country's Securities Commission. Reality check: most legitimate investment professionals must register and comply with strict laws. What to do? Search the name of the individual or firm in online databases. 5. Difficulty withdrawing your money. Red flag: you experience delays, excuses, or fees when trying to withdraw your funds. Reality check: transparent investment platforms let you access your money easily. What to do? If your funds are locked and you're being told to wait for the cycle or find someone to replace you, it's a major red flag. 6. Over-the-top marketing and secrecy. Red flag: flashy lifestyles, secretive meetings, and the promise of joining an elite group. Reality check: many scammers use the illusion of exclusivity and success to manipulate trust. What to do? Avoid groups that forbid transparency or discourage you from researching or asking questions. Conclusion. As we've seen, Ponzi schemes may change faces and names, but their deceptive core remains the same: robbing Peter to pay Paul. From Charles Ponzi's postal coupon scam to Bernie Madoff's Wall Street empire of lies, each story is a chilling reminder of what happens when greed and trust collide unchecked. The best protection is awareness. Before investing, always verify the legitimacy of the opportunity, question unusually high returns, and ensure the company is registered with regulatory bodies. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and most importantly, stay safe. If you're finding this helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more valuable content on scams, finance, and smart investing. Hit the bell so you don't miss out.